Hi there! Okay, we're back. So, we're back to coloring islands in Bougainville. Okay. Or no. You're part of Bougainville, and you're part of Bougainville. So yeah, like, I don't know about those islands. They're just gonna remain part of Papua New Guinea. Like most of this, but some won't. Actually, that's part of Papua New Guinea, though, so. Okay. So yeah, that's Bougainville. Actually, I think this is part of Bougainville too. So that's Bougainville. They're independent now. They're free. Also, Antarctica. So like, yeah, this is actually going to be kind of hard to make a feasible. This is okay. So the UK and Argentina kind of have they might go into another war, possibly, but probably not over like these disputed claims. Though the UK and Chile do come to an agreement. Britain gets this. Chile just renounces their claims over this section, so that that section is guaranteed. But actually, this conversation is going to happen a lot later. Actually, oh yeah, because the Antarctic Treaty hasn't expired yet. That's gonna happen in the future. And we're only in 2026. No, I'm not. I can't really do that because they're all part of NATO. So, like, that's not really realistic. And I'm trying to keep this, like, realistic in some sense. Oh. So, no. Base. And then, so. So Ukraine is pushing back the Russians on. But the Russians are also pushing back the Ukrainians on other fronts. Like here. So it's kind of in a back and forth stalemate. So then NATO decides to go knocking on St. Petersburg and sets up a naval blockade. So, well, actually, no, they blockade Kaliningrad because they can't really do that because that Gulf usually freezes during the winter. And also the Sea of Okhotsk is a thing too, but that's not gonna happen. Also, North Korea has joined the war. Because they have a defense pact, so yeah. Anyways. NATO. Yeah, NATO and like all alliances. Most alliances except for like this. Yeah, most like NATO's part of this, but so yeah, like hey, so Russia is kind of pushing, it's pushing the Ukrainians back a little bit, and then the Ukrainians make a landing in Crimea with the help of NATO, or at least some NATO countries. Now Russia is quick to respond to this by kicking them out. And then the Ukrainians unkicked them out. So and then the Russians re-kicked them out. So what they're going to focus on, so what the Ukrainians are going to try to focus on is pushing them back. So now they've been pushed back to here. And then the Russians oh, actually, yeah, that's more realistic. Yeah, that's realistic. Yeah, that's more realistic. Okay. And now, China is also looking like they're going to invade Taiwan. But not yet. Also because America is legally bound by a treaty to intervene, so they can't really invade them right now. Also, AI is AI's getting better as well, but also that's American. This is part of them. This is American. So okay, that's better, and yeah. So the U.S. now controls a lot of America. So anyways, yeah. So something actually happened in Latin America, and then also wars in Africa are no good. So we're not going to have that many wars. We're not going to have wars in Africa yet. There's going to be a few wars, though. Okay, so now. So the Ukrainians are kind of winning. Because America is distancing themselves from NATO, so Europe is increasing their aid to Ukraine. So with this aid, they are able to push them back. They are able to push back the Russians. And then a temporary ceasefire is agreed upon. So Russia withdraws most of their troops from Ukraine, but they keep a few in these specific area. But they keep a few in Luhansk and Donetsk. So it's kind of a victory for the Ukrainians. Okay, what just happened there? But then this gives them time to stir the pot a little bit. And by stir the pot, that means unite with Belarus. The Russian Empire is back. It's not the Russian Empire. It's like I'm just gonna call them the Union State. Or something. Or the Eurasian Union, or, yeah, something like that. And this gives Ukraine time to become a NATO partner member. They're kind of starting the process to joining NATO. So then... Oh yeah, and also, global warming isn't that bad yet, so hopefully we won't have to worry about it. Hopefully. So... Okay, so also the Baltics are looking kind of scared they're kind of scared because, I mean, now Russia can invade them from two sides. Well, actually, they can now invade all of them with just one front. So NATO cuts Russian supplies to Kaliningrad, and also navally blockades it because that is a threat right there. That right there. Kaliningrad is a massive threat because, like, what if Russia invades the Baltics, Poland, or Ukraine, or maybe even all of them? Also, yeah, back to Israel. So the Syrians are finally doing stuff. Oh, yeah. Again, well, this whole time they've been pushing back the Israelis, and now they're, like... they're not gonna surrender yet. But then Turkey decides to launch airstrikes. Israel launches a few drone strikes in Turkey, which is that's not good because Turkey is part of NATO, and NATO can invoke Article 5. But Israel is known to not know the consequences of their own actions. So Turkey still doesn't invoke Article 5. Oh, and also Lebanon starts their own invasion of Israel. And then now the Syrians have linked up with the Palestinians, so now the Palestinians are pushing back the Israelis. Oh yeah, and then the Israelis start pushing the Palestinian. Oh, hold on. so, Russia is actually doing, well, Russia is kind of happy that Israel is being pushed back, but they're also, well, I mean, Israel is also pushing into Palestine so that they don't take Jerusalem. And then Palestine fell, because that's most of their territory. That's most of their populated areas, or at least most of it. Also, Egypt also had an election, and, well, I don't know that much about Egyptian politics, but I just wanted to say Egypt had an election. Also, I don't know what that nation is. So Australia and New Zealand. So Australia and New Zealand decide. Right, well, maybe not yet, but, well, actually, screw it. New Zealand joins Australia in so that forms, like, the Republic of Oceania. That's not a reference. No intended reference to 1984. Oh no. Anyway, so this is a new behemoth in Oceania. Well, I mean, Australia was already the largest nation in that one specific continent. So, there you go. That's Greater Australia, also, or just Oceania. Oh yeah, so we might have a new Korean War. No guarantees, but there might be a second Korean War. No guarantees, but we might have one. I guess if, like, tensions in Asia brew enough. But that would start World War III, though. It'd probably be bundled in with some kind of World War III. Anyways, now the Republic of Oceania is eyeing up some of that unclaimed territory. And then, because maybe they could take some of it, but probably not. Not yet, at least. Anyways, yeah. So Australia is like well, their population didn't grow that much. But actually, as part of the unification deal, like the native tribes of New Zealand did have to get representation in order for like any kind of deals to be accepted. Anyways, I actually don't know what nation that belongs to. I believe it's France. Anyways, tensions between Greece and Turkey are heating up, but they are in NATO, so they kind of can't really attack each other. Anyways, now it's time. Well, not when I gotta finish coloring this in, and also now it's time for Cyprus to unite with Greece. I don't know, I just had the idea, and also it makes sense, so Greece is now a bit bigger. Oh, yeah. Cyprus is in the European Union. Well, they do agree to that. What? So, yeah, like, anyways, also Canada joins the European Union. So that's a thing. And also now it's time for the first Brazilian Civil War. Brazil hasn't had a civil war, I don't think. Let me check. Because there's always gonna be. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's actually the second Brazilian Civil War, not the first Brazilian Civil War. So yeah, basically Lula da Silva defeats Jair Bolsonaro. I don't know how to pronounce the names, but I mean, that's my best bet. That's my best go at it. There you go. So that's yeah. So yeah, so a civil war begins. I wonder who's gonna win. Oh. So basically, a military coup occurs in Brazil. So military coup, yeah, military coup. So now it's time for the Civil War in Brazil, at least. So, let me see. Oh, so my mic was muted. So I can't really... So, yeah, Second Brazilian Civil War. So the supporters of Lula da Silva take the initiative and, like... I mean... It's essentially a back and forth stalemate. Oh. So Malaysia, Argentina, and Trump. So Argentina under Malay supports Bolsonaro. I don't know how to pronounce his name really. Whilst the Americans, they stay neutral actually. Even though, like, the Monroe Doctrine says they kind of have to intervene, but they don't, really. I mean, they're not going to intervene, mainly because Congress isn't going to. And President Trump probably would authorize, like, some help. One last, so yeah, it's essentially a stalemate. They do launch, so there is a massive counteroffensive launched, but it fails. So they do have the military. Well, actually, only part of the military, because the other part of the military is still loyal. Anyways, nothing really happens up here. Except for one big, except for a massive offensive here. So other nations are shocked at what is going on. So Europe is divided on whom they should support. So a lot of them. Because this nation, the Bolsonaroists are essentially. I mean, they're kind of pro-dictatorship. So, like, that might. So that kind of drives a lot of nations' support away from supporting the Bolsonaroists. So basically, then also, and yeah, so So yeah, the coast is like the most populated region. So Russia and China support the Bolsonarists because that might actually help them. Like, the Chinese Communist Party is communist in name only, so they're very much like authoritarian capitalist. So yeah, like I might be. I would say I don't actually know who would win. Like, this area is quite populated, but also like this area, but like they've taken most of the populated areas, so not much is gonna happen there. So America is staying. I mean, a lot of the liberal democracies of the West support support the Silvists. I don't know, like I don't know how to say it. The support of the government, essentially. The government, this is the government and that's the military. Actually, that's the Amazon. They're not gonna make many offenses there. map. But yeah, Romania's bigger. And also, why does my mic keep muting itself? I swear I didn't ever mute it. It's muting itself. So anyways, yeah, like... So Ukraine's Kursk offensive still continues, and they're actually kind of successful. And then, bam! Like, with substantial aid from the West, like a ton of aid. Not just, like billions, if not trillions of dollars in aid at this point. Also, America's, there might be another war in Central America. Oh yeah, like, there could be, probably between, like, it might have been, it could be between, like, it could be in Central America, but there isn't, it's probably not gonna come to fruition. So yeah, the Ukrainians are pushing the Russians back, and also the Russians are pushing the Ukrainians back in other fronts. Ukraine's mainly focused in the north, so the Russians take the opportunity to invade in the south. So Ukraine asks the U.S. for aid, and America is like, nah. America isn't willing to give them a penny. And also, all this, like, martial law chaos in the U.S. has also boiled over, so Trump was impeached, so actually J.D. Vance is president, and then he declared martial law, and then he kept martial law, so he was impeached, and so now Mike Johnson is president, and he's continuing martial law, so they're introducing articles, or no, Hakeem Jeffries is the president now, so he actually does give aid to Ukraine. Bam. There you go. So that's... So yeah, Ukraine is... So Ukraine gets kind of cocky that they're pushing into Russia, and then they start invading Russia even more, which overstretch it, which overextends it, and now their supply line is starting to overextend itself. Anyways, finally, Ukraine did push the Russians back in the south, and then bam, there you go. The American Navy then moves into the Black Sea to harass the Russians, and also help the Ukrainians make a landing in Crimea again. So the Russians begin to push back the Ukrainians out of Crimea. So then they make another landing, which the Russians soon engage and push back. So it's kind of, so they're kind of just in a stalemate. So anyways, now we're gonna have another war yeah, there's probably gonna be some war in Asia between Turkey and Iran. So yeah, we should probably do that. So basically, yeah, so Iran, which is, so Iran begins an invasion into Azerbaijan. And then they capture their exclave, and then they start pushing. So then this prompts Turkey to join. The war. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot right there. And then also Syria joins the war. Now this assumes Erdogan is still in power, even though he probably isn't. By this point. Erdogan is kind of like, I don't know, he's either just straight on dictator, or he rigged the election via electoral tampering, so he stays in power. Which, yeah, Turkey might fall into a civil war, but, like, because they're at war with Iran, it's kind of easy for them to control a population, because constant war makes it easy to control a population. Then Armenia all of a sudden decides to join the war, or so they can get, so they're with the promise of land. Ew, Russia's in this war. Well, Russia's just funding, because they're not joining the war, because that's gonna trigger, because they're busy at war with Ukraine, but they are kind of secretly funding Armenia and Iran. Though Turkey probably did know about this, because duh, like, it just makes sense. So Armenia is actually quite weak, so Turkey crushes it. So then Russia goes for Georgia and starts their own invasion. Well, actually, that was Abkhazia. I mean, I think Russia and Georgia are still at war. That's... So then Turkey also moves some troops up into Georgia to help fight the Russians, because this actually doesn't trigger Article 5, because Georgia technically isn't. I'm pretty sure Russia isn't a member of NATO. So yeah, this war is. So yeah, all these wars are unpopular with the American public. Because they don't. So they think it's just a repeat of the Trump administration. So in 2028, they elect a new president. I don't know who it would be. I mean, it could be like someone. So it probably wouldn't be Bernie, but like, I don't know, like Rand Paul. I can't think of anybody. I can't really think of anybody else. Yeah, like Rand Paul, somebody like him. So he defeats the incumbent president, or no, Hakeem Jeffries. Actually, he might actually not be nominated, so he can become Speaker of the House again, because I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of like interim president. He could also just be Speaker of the House. So yeah, like the Ukrainians are pushing the Russians back. So, and also, due to the Trump administration doing, like, whatever they were doing, like, the martial law stuff, like, oh yeah, also Armenia capitulates. Yeah, like, yeah, some electoral reform, like, essentially abolishing the electoral college and just electing presidents by popular vote, because, yeah. So now Azerbaijan's exclave is liberated. And then, so yeah, with Russia distracted in Ukraine and Georgia, we could assume that, like, yeah, I mean, Iran's essentially alone in this, except for China. China is supporting Iran. Maybe, possibly not. And also, the integration process is complete. Kazakhstan is also now part of Russia. So let's see how that plays out. Well, yeah. So now the Eurasian Union state is now even bigger and even more scary. So yeah, this also increases calls for European integration, but ultimately that doesn't come to fruition. And also, so it's now 2029. Rand Paul is president of the U.S. Oh, and so reform wins in UK. Reform wins. So that's not good. Depending on your political positions. It's not good for Ukraine, though, because, well, it's not good for immigrants. And I'm pretty sure they are quite isolationist, so, like, yeah. Well, actually, they might not have elected, well, actually, America might not elect Rand Paul, because, or, no. They probably would, because he would probably vote for Trump's impeachment, especially with, like, the martial law crisis. Oh, yeah. And also, America has another debt ceiling crisis, and then America has to default on it. So, yeah. But then the Americans might have to default. So, like, yeah. So now that's a really big Russia. So UK's reform government is isolationist, kind of, I guess. They don't win, though it's actually a minority government, because Boris Johnson becomes leader of the Conservatives. I mean, the Tories, I'm gonna call them. He becomes leader of the Tories again, which, yeah. And also, in Canada, the Liberals are re-elected, because, I mean, they're doing pretty well, so, yeah. Mexico has an election the year after, and then Brazil also has an election in 2030. India has an election. Oh yeah, India also has an election. So, the Modi government is... I mean, it probably is going to be voted out of office because of the loss in the Brazilian Civil War. So, yeah, the Indian National Congress is in now because a lot of people are angry with the Modi government, and and also their intervention in Brazil, which was a humiliating defeat for India. They elect the Indian National Congress, which is a bit more, it's a bit more liberal. Not neoliberal, because what did I just undo? I undid something. Also, a war break. Basically, there's a drought, so war breaks out in Central Asia. So now, Uzbekistan begins an invasion of Tajikistan because of water. So China and Russia don't like this. Like, they really don't. Because Russia has good relations with a lot of these countries. So war is not good. So war between them isn't good. Because also just most people don't like it because it's a waste of resources. So Russia invades Uzbekistan. So Russia begins an invasion to keep the peace and stability and stuff. And then every nation capitulates to Russia. So then they just annex them. Russia just annexes. So Russia just annexes all of them. So yeah. So then all the nation's water resources have been used up by the war. And also, yeah, due to that drought, a ton of lakes dried up. So great job at trying to get water resources, Uzbekistan, because he kind of just removed most of them. Some still remain, though. Okay. There we go. Now we have a massive Russia. The only thing that separates Russia and China is Afghanistan. And also India. Well, now the Indian National Congress tries to so the Indian National Congress doesn't really like Russia as much as the BJP. I'm not gonna try to pronounce it. So back to Iran, because yeah. is, well, I mean, yeah. So with support from Saudi Arabia, mainly for oil, Turkey, Turkey. It's pronounced Turkey. It's not Turkey. It's Turkey, which I don't actually. Turkey is like Turkey is able to. They're able to push back Iran a little bit. Well, if that counts as a little bit, then sure. I guess. So Iran really doesn't want this war to continue. Also because the government was, the government is becoming more and more unpopular. So yeah, they need a peace treaty, really. So Azerbaijan annexes a bit of Armenia, also mainly so that they can link up with their exclave. So yeah, this peace treaty is, it's not that much. Turkey just gets more land. That's, Turkey and Azerbaijan, Turkey and Azerbaijan just get more land. That's essentially it. That's all that happens for, at least, well, not all that happens, because other stuff does. So yeah. Also, yeah. So yeah, let's get back to Russia and Ukraine. Also, National Rally actually isn't elected in France. Macron keeps his job, I guess. So that's great for Ukraine and for anyone who isn't the National Rally Party, really. So by this point, the Ukrainians had pushed back the Russians on a lot of fronts. With assistance from Poland, when Ukraine takes a bit of Belarus. And now it is time for World War III. So with American isolationism, Russia sees an opportunity to I mean, they're losing against Ukraine. So why don't they start another front in the Baltics? So yeah, Russia sees an opportunity to start another front. Maybe not in the Baltics, but like probably in the Nordics. Like, so yeah, that's gonna be a trailer for the next part because I gotta go again. I gotta get fresh fruit. My dad's go to the store for stuff. Okay.